Hi, and welcome. We're talking about how to get your needs met. Today, we're talking about the beliefs that you might have about your needs that might make it easier or harder to get your needs met. I'm Jen. I'm a holistic family consultant. I'm here to help you and your close, important people have relationships that feel connected and joyful and in which all parts of you and them are welcome. So, we are talking about the Get What You Need workbook, which, if you don't have a copy of, the link to get that for free from my website is in the show description. And we're talking about the section about beliefs about needs, which is where this starts to really get juicy. Because now we're really getting into all of the things that we've internalized consciously or unconsciously throughout our whole lives about needs. And so some of these might be about needs more generally, like an idea of like my needs don't matter, or I can't meet my needs until my kids' needs are entirely satisfied. Or they might be beliefs about a specific need, like it's shameful to have a need for touch, something like that. They also may be things that are true. So those things that I just identified, you probably can recognize, like, oh yeah, that wouldn't be helpful, and it's probably not true. But they also might be things that are very true, like I can't afford a massage right now, which could be either way. You might say that statement and then think, oh, actually, if I just like don't go out to eat on Friday, I could afford a massage. Or you might be like, yeah, I'm struggling to pay my rent. I can't afford a massage. That's true. So at the beginning part of this, the first part of this, we want to identify all the beliefs, whether they're true, whether they're false, whether they seem silly and ridiculous. Even if the cognitive part of your brain is like, well, obviously that's dumb. We want to write it down anyway, because if it's coming up, it's in there somewhere. It's in the programming that you've gotten from parenting, from society, from culture, from religion, from school. I mean, these can come from so many places. These can come from your lived experience. They can come from trauma, big T or little t trauma. They can come from past relationships. They can come from expectations that others have, whether they're explicit or implicit expectations. They can come from the expectations you think others have that you haven't asked them, and so you don't actually know whether they do. There's a lot to unpack here, and so the first thing is just to try to get as many of them out as possible without censoring yourself. Beliefs are all of the things that you think are true or that you might have in there in the scripts, even if you don't really think they're true. Put them down in here. And there's specific questions to help you think about kind of categories of beliefs that you have. You're making statements like, I think that uh, children's needs come before adult needs. Um, I think that I'm not supposed to need this. Those kinds of things. Statements. We're making statements. And again, it's okay if you're like, well, that's a ridiculous statement. Write it down anyway at this stage. If you have shoulds about this, about your need that you identified in the last step, should is a really good sign that you have a belief. I should be able to take care of this by myself. I should already have this handled. I should not need this. Those are all, if you're shoulding yourself, should is a really good sign that you have a belief. So you can write those down too, as well as the I believe kind of statements. I should or should not are good signs that there's a belief in there. Uh, Feelings tend to come up with our beliefs, and there's an invitation for there to be a lot of space for that. And if the feelings are big or confusing or unmanageable, that's an indication that some additional help, some one-on-one work would be helpful here. Grief may come up as well as feelings of anger, rage, frustration, shame, judgment, and there's room for all of the feelings because we're not looking at these beliefs to assign them as good or bad, correct or incorrect. We're looking at these beliefs to become aware of all of the subconscious scripts and programming that's happening in our heads. Because when we become aware of it, then we can do the next step, which is deciding what beliefs are going to be helpful for getting your need met and which ones are getting in the way. Uh, there's another piece here that is the systemic and logistical barriers to getting your need met. And I put these in with the beliefs Um, and I just want to clarify that when we're talking about those kinds of things, um, poverty, racism, sexism, homophobia, those kinds of systemic barriers, and the logistical things like money and childcare and time and energy, I'm not listing those as beliefs in the sense of like, well, just stop believing that that's a barrier. No, those barriers are real and they exist. And I want to deeply acknowledge that they're true. They may be true and also unhelpful. They may be things that are getting in the way of getting your need met. And so naming them and having them in awareness is an important piece, because then when we get to the problem solving, we take into account the things that are real and true and are part of the challenges in the creative problem solving. So even if you're like, well, that's not a belief, that's a fact, write it down. it's it's the same in this context, because we're not going to try to dismantle the facts. Because as you get to the next page, once you've identified, you've listed all of these things out, then we're going to start talking about which of these things are true, the facts, which of these things are not true, the scripts that we've been when taught or socialized with, but that we're like, actually, is that really true? Does it have to be that way? And so that's kind of the question I want to invite you when I'm asking, is it true or not true? Is the like, does it have to be that way? Is that definitely the case? Is there flexibility around that idea? It's okay if in that process you're like, everything I identified is true. It may mean that you've already done a lot of work on dismantling the unhelpful beliefs that you got socialized with, because all of us have gotten socialized with unhelpful beliefs. So it may be that you've already done a lot of work on those and you no longer hold those beliefs. And if that's the case, recognize it and celebrate it, because that's huge. It may also mean that you need to dig a little bit deeper and get into a little bit more vulnerable part of yourself to find the beliefs that are in there that are not in your conscious awareness, that might be in the way of getting the needs met. And it's okay, again, if you need more support with that, because that can be uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable work to dig deeper into the subconscious things that are in there. They're driving our decision making, but they're not necessarily helpful. So that can be a question asked: are you allowing yourself to have uncomfortable answers? And if you're not, again, we're not bringing judgment to that, bringing curiosity to that. Why not? Is it too big? Is it too scary? Do I need more support to allow myself to go there? You know, what vulnerabilities or fears are around digging into those deeper layers? And we're not going there by force. We're allowing that curiosity and seeing where it leads. And it may be that right now there's not enough bandwidth to go into that stuff, and that's okay. You can still get value from this, but it's also a thing to recognize as you get into like creative problem solving. If you start getting stuck, feeling like you can't come up with ideas, one of the places to look back at is, are there more beliefs that you haven't dug up yet? Um, it's normal that as you identify these beliefs, if you find things that you're like, I think that is some of my programming I would like to not have anymore, that you can't just like snap your fingers and now I don't believe that anymore. I wish it was that simple, but unfortunately, it's not. You've had those beliefs ingrained for a long time, and it's not going to just go away overnight. So we're going to bringing curiosity to it and recognizing that it's there, and being able to see that it's there and have it in your conscious awareness, but not able to change it or shift what you believe yet, is already a win. That's already progress. You cannot learn to ride a bike without first discovering bikes exist, right? You may be a beginner on dismantling some of the unhelpful beliefs that you've gotten internalized over the years, and that's okay. It's okay for this to take time and effort and practice. That's normal. You're a normal person if you're having that experience. All right, so we'll be back in the next video talking about skills. There were previous videos for the other sections, and the links to get a hold of me if you need help, if you have questions, if you need a copy of the workbook. All of those things are in the description below the video.